Hare Krishna. So, in the last few months and few weeks, we were discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, starting from chapter 5. So, from chapter 5 all the way up to chapter 11, the primary creation of unlimited number of universes by Mahavishnu is being described. How the 24 elements have been produced from Mahavishnu's various skin pores, and eventually by their combination there appeared unlimited universes, and then the same Mahavishnu entering into each universe as Garbhodakshay Vishnu fills the lower half of the universe with water and enters into those waters, and there he takes rest. And eventually, when it was right time for the creation, from his navel there appears a beautiful lotus which is coming out of the water and going all the way up to the top of the universe, the universal shell. So then, in order to further the activities of the creation, same Garbhodakshay Vishnu, expanding himself as Kshirodakshay Vishnu, third Purusha, the third form of Vishnu. The first Vishnu was Karnodakshay Vishnu, from whose skin pores appears Prakriti. The second Purusha was Garbhodakshay Vishnu, from whose skin pores he creates so much water which fills the lower of the universe. And he himself expands as third Purusha, known as Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And he enters as the Paramatma of the entire lotus. As soon as he enters into that lotus as its Paramatma, Lord Brahma appears on top of that lotus. Then Brahma tries to understand who is he and where from he came, where this lotus coming from, what is the source of himself and the lotus. With an intention to understand, he enters into that lotus in order to find out the root of that lotus from where it is coming. He tried for 100 human years, but he could not understand the source of that lotus and the source of himself. Then he comes back to the lotus flower, which is there on the top of the universe. Then he performs tapasya for many years, for another 100 years. Then he had the beautiful darshan of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. The wonderful description of Lord Garbhodakshay Vishnu's beauty is mentioned in the chapter 8. And then he offers beautiful prayers to the Garbhodakshay Vishnu in chapter 9. At the end of those prayers, Lord Brahma requests Garbhodakshay Vishnu that, my dear Lord, please empower me to do some service unto your lotus feet. You have created this universe and the creation is not yet completed. Please empower me to do the remaining, the pending activity. So Lord Vishnu empowers Brahma, uh, assuring him that as he will be doing his creation, he will not be deviated from his attraction towards the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will always remain a wonderful devotee and simultaneously continue the service of doing the remaining part of the creation. Then, having thus been empowered by Lord Vishnu, and after the disappearance of Lord Vishnu, whatever Lord Brahma does, that is called Visarga, the secondary creation. So, Visarga means the secondary creation of the living entities. The secondary creation of the living entities by Lord Brahma. So this has been explained a little bit in 10th chapter, and more details are mentioned in the 12th and 20th chapters. These two chapters specifically dedicated to explain what all Brahma created, how did he create, etc. etc. So let us see a brief overview of what we discussed till now, and also we spent some time on discussing the 12th chapter. Last week we kind of went through very fast. So the 10th chapter starts with a query asked by Vidura unto Maitreya. Let me know how Brahma, the grandfather of the planetary inhabitants, the grandfather of all the living entities in the material universes, created by the bodies, created the bodies of the living entities from his own mind and body after Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's disappearance. And this particular thing is called Visarga, Naimitika or secondary creation. The creation made by Brahma, specifically by his mind and body, to populate the 14 planetary systems that he had created from the lotus stem. So, after the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma again performed austerities for 100 celestial years. So, at the end of that, he everything is revealed within his heart what he is supposed to do and how he is supposed to do. So, with that understanding, he begins his creation. First, he divides the lotus into three divisions: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Svargaloka. But he was not happy with the three divisions. Then he creates 14 divisions out of the same lotus: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Svargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, the seven upper planets, and then Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala, like that seven lower planets. He creates total 14 planetary systems. Still, he was not happy. In each planetary system, again, he further created divisions and subdivisions, so that more variety of living entities can be accommodated at the same time all over the universe. That was his idea. This is Brahma's daily creation. He does it at the beginning of his day. So Brahma's, we also discussed in the 11th chapter. So Brahma's day will last for 1000 Chaturyugas. That will be the time for the day of Brahma. So one Chaturyuga is the combination of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga lasts for 4,32,000 years, and one Chaturyuga lasts for 10 times of Kali Yuga. Because Dwapara Yuga is twice to the Kali Yuga, Treta Yuga is thrice, Satya Yuga is 4 times. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. So 43 lakh 20,000 years is one Chaturyuga. Like that, there are 1000. So 43 lakh means 4.32 million years is one Chaturyuga. Into 1000, that means 4.32 billion years is one day of Brahma. So at the beginning of every that particular day, that kind of day, Lord Brahma creates. So whatever is being mentioned in the future sections, that will be created by Brahma every day at the beginning. So first Brahma divides this lotus into 14 divisions. Here we can see Bhuloka, Bhurloka, Sargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, like that 14 divisions are created from this lotus. And then various variety of living entities have been created so that all those different living entities can be accommodated to various places. Generally, the great sages and rishis like Vashishta, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, etc., four Kumaras, Nardamuni, etc., they all live in the upper four planetary systems: Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. These places are occupied by all the great sages. Their leader is Brahma. And Swargaloka is inhabited by a variety of devatas. All the different variety of devatas they live in Swargaloka. And in Bhurloka, variety of living entities are living. In Bhurloka, we also have Sadhyas and Pitrus. Pitru devatas are living in Bhurloka. Sadhyas are living in Bhurloka. Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, some kind of mystic people, they also live in Bhurloka. And Gandharvas and Apsaras, they also live in Bhurloka. And these are all some kind of the Kimpurushas, Kinnaras also live in Bhurloka. They are all a lesser category of devatas. They are also devata category only, but lesser category. In addition to them, some asuras also live in this area. For example, like Rakshasas and Yakshas and Rakshasas, they also live in this Bhurloka. And also Bhuta, Preta, Pishachas, all the variety of ghosts and hobgoblins, they also have a residence in this Bhurloka. There they will be living and they will be serving their Lord and Master, Lord Shiva. One of the 11 Rudras also live in this Bhuvarloka, giving shelter to all these Yakshas and Rakshasas and Bhuta Preta Pishachas, etc. etc. Then in Bhuloka, all the different variety of people also living, and also human beings are living in Bharatavarsha. The other rest of the area of the Bhumandala or Bhuloka, many other category of people are living. They are all like they are higher than the human beings and lesser than the devatas. They are like some kind of devatas. They are living there. And in the lower planets, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatal, Patal, out of all these places, Mahatala and Patala, the fifth one and the seventh one, Mahatala and Patala, they are exclusively dedicated for snakes, all the variety of serpents, single-hooded and many-hooded serpents, such as Takshaka, Vasuki, all these different snakes about whom we generally hear, they all live in this area, in this Mahatala and Patala area. And then all the remaining lower planets, remaining five, they are meant for different variety of asuras. All the asuras live in those respective planetary systems. So these are all meant for like this. All these different variety of beings are created by Lord Brahma, and all those things required for human beings to sustain, like plants and different variety of trees. The plants will give us vegetables and other things. The trees will give us fruits and flowers, etc. And different variety of animals that need for our sustenance. Bulls are needed for tilling the land, cows are needed for giving the milk, and many other things. Horses are needed to travel from one place to other place, etc. All those different variety of animals also they primarily stay in the Bhuloka, and also some variety of other animals of higher category also live in other planets also, other lokas. But primarily all the variety of living entities, they actually live in Bhuloka or Bhumandala. Visarga is the creation of bodies for the jivas by the resultant combination of 24 elements. The whichever 24 elements are created by Lord Garbhodaksha Vishnu are used by Brahma, and Brahma uses the same 24 elements and he creates human body for human beings, Devata body for those who are supposed to become Devatas, animal body for those who are supposed to become animals, and the plant body for those who are supposed to become a plant. Like that, according to the nature and karma, whoever is supposed to become whatever living species, for them, at the beginning of his day, Lord Brahma himself created their respective bodies using the same 24 elements. Thus, the creation of both moving and non-moving entities is done by Lord Brahma. It means giving jivas from forms with intelligent senses and the body for engaging in material enjoyment, pursuing liberation by practicing jnana or yoga, or practicing bhakti according to one's qualification. So, the material creation is meant for two purposes. One is to provide a facility for the living entities who have developed a desire to enjoy separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord, being a kind Father, He had created all this variety of universes so that we can exercise our free will and fulfill all our desires. But once we are done with that, the Supreme Lord also provided the proper means following which we can actually go back home back to Godhead. So that is such as the process such as Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. They are all given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So practicing them, we can all go back home back to Godhead. So this was the purpose with which the creation has been made. So then Brahma begins to create many living entities. So the creation by Vishnu and by Brahma, everything is made into 10 divisions. This chapter kind of, in order to remember easily, it is divided into 10 divisions. The first part of creation is creation of Mahatattva. When Mahavishnu glances upon Prakriti or Pradhana, the Pradhana gives birth to Mahatattva. Then eventually there comes Ahankara, false ego. And then from Ahankara, in the mode of ignorance, there comes five gross elements and five sense objects. Five gross elements were earth, water, fire, air, ether. And five sense objects were earth has the fragrance, water has taste, fire has form, and air as touch, ether as sound. So all those were created from the Ahankara in the mode of ignorance. Then Ahankara in the mode of passion. There comes five Jnanendriyas, five knowledge senses, and five Karmendriyas, five action senses. And along with the knowledge senses, there appears intelligence. Along with the action senses, there appears prana. We already discussed some time back that we have 10 kinds of pranas. Prana, Apana, Samana, Vyana, Udana, Kirkara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya, etc. etc. Like 10 kinds of pranas are there. They are all produced from the Hankara in the mode of passion. And then from Ahankara in the mode of goodness, there comes mind and the mind's deity, Chandra. And also the 10 sense devatas who will be supervising the activities of the 5 knowledge senses and 5 action senses, Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. So these 5 were created by Lord Vishnu. And the creation of these 5, all these 24 elements happens from Prakriti. That's why it is called as Prakrita Sushti or Prakrita creation. And then the 6th creation is also by Lord Vishnu. That is called creation of ignorance. So this is produced from Avidya Shakti. The purpose is to bewilder the Jiva. So it is because of Avidya Shakti we are bewildered in this material world. We have forgotten our original identity and we identify ourselves with the body in which we are residing. Currently, all of us are residing in the human body and we identify ourselves as a human being, male, female, this person, that person. So many identities we get because we are living this body. And after this lifespan, after this lifetime, when we leave this body and enter into some other body, if we happen to enter into some Devata body, we think ourselves as a Devata. If we happen to enter into an animal body, we think ourselves as an animal. If we happen to enter into a tree or plant body, we think ourselves as that plant. So like that. So this kind of forgetfulness of our original identity and identifying ourselves with the body in which we are living, it is the function of avidya. So avidya is another potency of Maya Devi. Maya Devi actually covers our original identity, covers our knowledge, and gives us new identity. So it is like that. So then Acharyas have explained in the Parapart saying that. So it seems that till now we were understanding that Maya only is Pradhana, it gives only 24 elements. So Avidya Shakti, from where it is coming? That kind of question might come. So Acharyas have explained that Maya has 3 conditions or 3 divisions. The first division is known as Pradhana or Guna Maya, from which there comes the 24 elements starting from Mahatattva all the way up to earth were created. And these 24 elements are actually the real creations. All these 24 elements are real elements, they are not illusory. As the Mayavada followers say that Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. They say that this entire material world made up of these 24 elements is actually illusory or actually Mithya. But the Vaishnava Acharya says that these elements are not Mithya. The elements are not illusory. They are always there. The elements have eternal existence. By their combination, whatever is manifest in this material world, it has a time period after which it will last. Just like our human body, though it is made by 24 elements, it has got a time span, a time period of 100 years at max. Afterwards, it will be destroyed. But the 24 elements will merge back into original 24 elements. There is no destruction to the elements. But whatever form is made by these 24 elements have a time limit. So in that way, the 24 elements per se are not illusory. And whatever product is made by these 24 elements, it only changes the form, but it is not illusory. That's how it is mentioned. So here Acharya says that the entire universe known as Samishti and our individual bodies known as Vyashti, they are all made by these 24 elements only. Lord Brahma combines them and creates the entire Brahmanda and the 14 planetary systems and all our bodies. So that is being indicated. And the second component of Maya Devi is Avidya Shakti, which actually bewilders the Jiva with 5 types of ignorances. The 5 types of ignorances, 5 are the Avidya Shakti sub components are 5. They are Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha. These are not real because these 5 things are not there with the Jiva when Jiva is in the liberated condition. Though Jiva can stay in the material body made up of these 24 elements, still one can be in the liberated consciousness. But as long as that avidya is there, avidya coverings are there within our heart, in the core of our heart, it is very difficult to call ourselves as liberated in that way. So the world composed of both real, that is pradhana and 24 elements, and unreal, that is avidya shakti, its 5 components, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, vinivesha, the entire world is made. Because of avidya, because of pradhana, we get a body, and because of avidya, we get identity. And because of that identity, in order to fulfill the demands of our body, we start performing so many sinful activities in this material world. That particular performance of many activities will actually bind us in this material world. Because of that bondage, we actually go through the cycle of transmigration. Sometimes we are human beings, sometimes we are animals, sometimes we are plants, sometimes we are devatas, sometimes we are asuras. Like that, we are keep going one species to other species. But there is third component of Maya, which actually helps us get rid of this continuous cycle of transmigration. That is the third component of Prakriti, that is known as Vidya, which destroys the five types of ignorance. Vidya destroys avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. How? What exactly Vidya is all about? Vidya is the Vedas, which teach us all the Vedic literature, which teach us how to lead our life as long as we are living in this material world, and how to leave this body and this world and go back to Godhead. This we understand by studying how to execute karma yoga, how to execute jnana yoga, how to execute ashtanga yoga, how to perform tapasya, how to cultivate vairagya, and how to perform bhakti. All these things are taught in different variety of Vedic literature, and they are all known as the Vidya potency of Maya Devi. When we take shelter of this Vidya potency, we can very easily cut through the bondage caused by this avidya potency, and then giving up the body which is made by this pradhanas byproduct, the 24 elements, we can go back home back to Godhead. The third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, its intention is to tell us how pradhana creates our material body individually and the entire universal body. That is being described in the chapters from 5 to 11. And then it also talks about how avidya binds us in this material world by enabling us to forget our original identity, that we are an amsha of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Jivera Sarupai, Krishna and Nityadas, and also an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That knowledge is forgotten by us because of this avidya layer. But this avidya layer or this ignorance can be destroyed by taking shelter of vidya, which is known as karma, jnana, yoga, tapasya, vairagya, and bhakti. So how vidya binds us in this material world by giving us different variety of identities is being discussed in chapter 10, chapter 12, chapter 20. These chapters actually tell us how we are bound in this material world by different identities. So plants would get their identity as plants, animals get the identity as animals, human beings get the identity as human beings, and devatas get the identity as devatas. So as long as we are overwhelmed with those identities, we are simply bound in this material world. But the solution to come out of that is Vidya. And this Vidya is taught in the section known as Teachings of Lord Kapila, starting from chapter 25 all the way up to chapter 33. So all these chapters, so about 6 plus 3, 9 chapters elaborately talk about what is karma yoga, what is jnana yoga, what is ashtanga yoga, what is tapasya, what is vairagya, and what is bhakti, how to execute them, by doing them what is the goal one is going to receive, etc., 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 is nicely described from chapter 25 to 33. So in that way, the whole chapter talks to us that why this universe is made and how this universe is made, and why the human body or any particular body is given to all of us, the so-called living entities, and how it is given to us, and finally how or by practicing what all of us can get rid of this false identity and go back home back to Godhead. The entire subject matter is spoken in the third canto, and from fourth canto all the way up to 10th canto, so many case studies have been presented. The different variety of living entities who having taken shelter of all these variety of vidya components, primarily bhakti, but some people have taken shelter of tapasya, some taken shelter of vairagya also along with bhakti, some taken shelter of ashtanga yoga along with bhakti, some have taken shelter of jnana along with bhakti. Some have taken shelter of karma along with bhakti. So all those case studies have been presented in the rest of the Bhagavatam. For example, in the fourth canto, you can see starting Daksha comes. Daksha has taken shelter of karma. He is always busy performing various sacrifices. And then we have Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj has taken shelter of bhakti as well as tapasya. He goes to Madhuvan and he performs intense tapasya. For 6 months, he performs serious Ashtanga yoga, and the Supreme Lord appeared in front of him. So it's like that. So and even our prachetas, they actually enter deep within the water and they perform this severe tapasya for 10,000 celestial years, not 1 day, 2 day, not 1 year, 2 year. The 10 prachetas, which is described in the fourth canto, they go deep within the water and there they perform tapasya for 10,000 celestial years. Like the different examples are being spoken in the future cantos. So all those things, the case studies are presented. If they had any difficulties they have gone through in their life, they are also presented. So that while we are practicing our sadhana, if we come across all those difficulties, so we have a case study to look into how to overcome these problems, etc., etc. So this is how the whole Bhagavatam is presented uh, in the future cantos, so that all of us can get the benefit of taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and practicing one of the important sadhanas mentioned here, primarily bhakti, and whenever required, we can take shelter of other sadhanas also little bit here and there, and eventually we can go back, one can go back home back to Godhead. So that is the main teaching or the main essence of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So then, so what are those five Ajnana Vrittis, the five Avidya Shakti manifesting in five components that is being mentioned in the 12th chapter, second verse. Last week we discussed about it. That Sasarjagre and the Tamishram, Ada Tamishram Adikrit, Mahamoham cha Moham cha, Tamaschagnana Vrittaya. So these are the five layers of ignorance. Though they were created by Lord Vishnu, but it is Lord Brahma uses them to give us a false identity. Because otherwise, without these five layers, it is very difficult for us to think that we are human beings. Whereas the others can think themselves as Yakshas, Rakshasas, Asuras, or any other thing. It is very difficult for one to think about them as they are. So that identity is possible because of avidya. So in one sense, from normal point of view, this avidya is also good. Just like when I'm staying in this human body, if I don't think myself as a human being, if I think myself as an animal, then I will be creating chaos in the society. So for a sane living, we need to have proper identity. So that will be given by these these five layers of avidya. But those identities are actually binding us in this material world. But when we take shelter of Vidya, all these false identities can be removed and we can go back home back to Godhead. So the function of this avidya is it gives us the identity that we are Yakshas, Rakshasas, Devatas, humans and animals and plants, etc. etc. That the first functions of the ignorance appeared on their own through Brahma. So Brahma uses the 24 elements and also these five Ajnana Vrittis. From them, he creates our body and he creates our identity. So what is the nature of these five Ajnana Vrittis? First one is Tamas, also known as Avidya. It actually makes us forget our Swarupa. The second one is Moha, or also known as Asmita. It actually gives us different identity. In whichever body we are there, we identify with that. Third one is called Raga. So when we are living in a particular body, there are many people and many objects. They will be giving us happiness. They will be giving us enjoyment, etc., etc. So we develop possessiveness upon them. We want those things to be with us for the rest of eternity. And then, but if somebody else also wanting the same things or same people for their enjoyment, then there will be conflict between both of them. That is called tamishram or dvesha. We develop enmity with those people who are actually obstructing our enjoyment. Then finally, everyone knows that there is something known as death. So everyone is thinking that before death comes, let me enjoy as much as possible. That is called complete absorption in material pleasure. So this is called Anda Tamishara, deep dark well, or Abhinivesha. So our consciousness is deeply immersed in only more and more enjoyment. Such kind of people are not at all interested in practicing sadhana and going back home back to Godhead. Such kind of things are not at all interested for them. But originally these things are not present with the jiva when the jiva is in the spiritual world. But as soon as the jiva comes to material world, that atma is covered by these 5 layers of avidya shakti. So because of which the jiva is bound in this material world. The whole purpose of the practicing bhakti for us or jnana or yoga for others is to dismantle these 5 layers of avidya. That is the whole purpose. Otherwise, there is no other reason for us to practice sadhana in one sense. When these 5 layers of avidya are destroyed, then our originality is revealed, our original sarupa will be revealed. And with that understanding, with that knowledge, we can continue to serve the Supreme Lord eternally in the spiritual world. So that is the whole idea. So sometimes at some places, many places, Prabhupada uses that Avarnatmika Shakti and Prakshepatmika Shakti. That Maya Devi has got 2 energies. As Maya Devi has got 2 shades. One is Avarnatmika Shakti, the second one is Prakshepatmika Shakti. Avarnatmika Shakti means it covers our original identity. We become ignorant of our original Sarupa. And Prakshepatmika Shakti means Prakrushta Rupena Ikshate Iti Prakshepatmika. We see ourselves in a specific way. We see ourselves in a different way. Originally, we are actually jivas. We are an amsha of the Supreme Lord. We are supposed to be in the spiritual world. But because of this maya, we think ourselves as a human being. We see ourselves as a different person than what we are originally in the spiritual world. So it is like that. So these are the 2 shades of Maya Devi, Avarnatmika and Prakshepatmika. So having mentioned the 6 creations that are done by Lord Vishnu, and which is nothing but the 24 material elements and the creation of 5 Ajnanavatis, and using them at the very beginning, Lord Brahma creates 4 creations. He creates 6 kinds of immobile trees and plants. He also creates 28 varieties of lower species known as different variety of animals, and he also creates human beings. He also creates the 8 kinds of devatas. They are actually different variety of superhuman beings who have mystic powers and supernatural powers, etc. And also the great sages headed by Kumaras. And all these are the manifestation of Avidya Shakti of Maya. So that is being mentioned in the 10th chapter. So then the 10th chapter goes into details. What were those 4 creations by Brahma? The first creation by Brahma is the plants and trees. And they are known as Sashtusham. That means they distribute their nourishment upward. They take minerals from the earth and the trees grow upward. That is being indicated. The trees are, they take nourishment from the bottom, from the roots, and grow upward. They distribute their nourishment upwards. They are almost unconscious. Their consciousness is not so developed. And they have a feeling of pain when being cut. When we cut the different branches of the tree, when we pluck fruits or flowers, or even when we pluck vegetables from the plants, they actually feel a little bit pain. Since we cause pain to different variety of plants, all of us are advised to offer the food preparations through the lordships and then accept the prasadam. Otherwise, we are causing pain to plants, different variety of plants, and we are enjoying those foodstuffs, and we are actually liable to be punished for the pain being that we cause to the variety of plants and trees. Even when we pluck flowers, even when we pluck fruits, when we take out the firewood from the plants, for all these things, we actually need to pay properly. Otherwise, we are guilty of being harming other living entities. But the Supreme Lord says that, but for our survival, we need to depend upon someone. So the bona fide food allocated for the human beings is vegetables, fruits, and flowers, etc. variety. So when we accept them, the proper means of getting rid of the sinful reactions is offer the boga food preparations to the Supreme Lord, then accept the food. So that kind of thing is makes us sin free, because Lord Vishnu is responsible for maintenance. For our maintenance, we need to eat something. So Lord has given a bona fide means of eating. So in that way, and the trees are not fixed in one size; they are unlimited variety. Every plant and every tree, every subject tree and every flower bearing tree, every fruit giving tree, it looks different for the eyes to look at. That's why it is called as they are not fixed in one size but have unlimited variety. So all the plants are subgrouped into 6 varieties. There are some plants which directly give fruits but without any giving any flowers. And some plants stay only for 1 year, like all the sabji plants, they stay only 1 year, they can't stay more than 1 year. And there are some plants which need support to grow, they are known as creepers or lata. And some plants, their trunks are hollow, like bamboo trees, castor trees, etc. And some plants roots are very strong, they are bushes. And for some plants, first comes flowers and then comes fruits, and they are called durma. Like that, these 6 categories are made among the different variety of plants. And then the 28 variety of animals are being mentioned. The animals are of 28 varieties. They distribute their nourishment horizontally. Tirasham, that means they eat their food from the front, and the food grows horizontally, gets digested, whatever is remaining that comes out. And the animal's body also grows in the horizontal direction. So that is being indicated here. Extensively, they are foolish. They don't have any concept of future. Animals generally act based on instinct. They don't make plans for future. And they are preoccupied only with food. They are completely ignorant. Animals don't make plans for the future. If you leave them, they continue to eat 24 hours. 12 hours they eat on the grazing land, and other 12 hours they actually churn their food. They bring out the food from the stomach and churn it again swallow. That they will do whole night. The animals, if you leave them, they keep eating only whole day, whole night. But human beings are not so. Human beings at max they may spend maximum 1 hour in a day to eat, and the rest of the time we are meant to work. So it is like that. They understand their needs are desirables by smell. So what is fit to be eaten, what is not fit to be eaten, the animal generally smell first. If it is fit to be eaten, then they will, otherwise they will not eat, etc. And they are devoid of lengthy deliberation. They don't make any long-term future plans, etc., etc. And they are unable to remember anything within the heart. Animals forget some of the things very easily. So in that way, may not be all animals. Some dogs, cows, etc., etc. Remember their owners. Whoever takes care of them, they remember. But when they were sold to somebody else, when they go to some other owner, they'll forget the old owner and they will become friendly with the new owner. This kind of thing is there. So like that, from that point, from these both points of view, so they don't remember for long. So in that way. So these are the different variety of animals. There are some animals who have cloven hooves. Cloven hooves means their feet is divided into 2 parts, one here, one here. And some animals without cloven hooves, their feet is only one portion. And some animals are with 5 nails, like that. And some of them are reptiles. Some of them are land dwelling birds. Some of them are water dwelling birds. These birds either fly or live in the water, but not on the land. And these birds fly and live on the land, but not on the water. They go nearby water, drink water, and come back. They don't spend time in the water bodies. And finally, there are aquatics and also makaras, like that. The details are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then there is one variety of human beings. The ninth class consists of the beings in which the food is distributed downwards. There is only one class human beings, because wherever we go, the physical structure of the human being is same. Every human has two legs, every human has two hands, every human has two eyes, two nostrils, one mouth, and two ears. Like that, the physical bodily construction is same. The complexion may be different, but rest of the body structure is same. And in that way, all humans are said to be one variety because the one bodily structure is there. And then they have predominance of rajas, rajo adhika. The human beings by nature are made of passionate nature, and they are dedicated to work. Since we only take 1 hour to eat in a day, and maybe 6 to 7 hours for sleeping, so 7 plus 1 8 hours. So after 8 hours, when we remove from the day, we have 16 hours, and in those 16 hours we'll be doing so many activities. People go to office and do work at home, and etc, etc, so many things. That's why human beings are called karma para. They are dedicated to karma, doing variety of activities. And finally, dukkecha sukhamanina. Even in misery, the human being thinks that they are very happy. They think themselves happy even in distress. These are some examples of rajo adhika, karma para, dukkecha sukhamanina, etc. And finally, the 10th creation, the creation of 8 variety of superhuman beings. So they are they are all mentioned here. These are all superhuman beings. The Yakshas, Rakshasas, chief Devatas, consisting of Adityas, Varu, Vasus, Maruts, Rudras, etc. etc. All those Devatas are part of this one. And we have Daityas and Danavas, who are known as Asuras. So Kashyapa Muni had many wives. Among them, one wife name is Danu. All her sons are Asuric in nature, and they are called as Danavas. And the same Kashyapa Muni's another wife, her name is Diti, and Diti's sons are called as Daityas. So that's why they are known as Daityas. So Daityas and Danavas are the sons of Kashyapa Muni. And similarly, the same Kashyapa Muni has one more wife known as Aditi. The Aditi's sons were Adityas. They are Devatas. Adityas were the Devatas. Kashyapa Muni is the same father. He is the father for Devatas. He is also father for the Asur, the Daityas and Danavas, Asuras. Like that, he will be father for many other beings also. So that is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there are lesser category of devatas such as Gandharvas and Apsaras, who are the heavenly singers and heavenly dancers. And we also have inauspicious people like Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas, ghostly beings. And other auspicious beings are Sadhyas and Pitrus, who live in the moon planet. The Sadhyas and Pitrus actually live in the moon planet. And then Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, Kinnaras, and Kimpurushas. Like that, all these variety of living entities, the higher celestial beings have been created by Brahma as his fourth creation. The first creation is that of animals. Second creation is that of first creation is that of plants. Second creation is that of animals. Third creation is that of human beings, and fourth creation is that of the superhuman beings who will be living in the upper lokas, higher planetary systems. And after creating them, Lord Brahma also creates all the great sages who will be living in Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. All these people who are mentioned here, they all live in either Svargaloka, the chief devatas live in Svargaloka, and Yakshas, Rakshasas, and then Gandharvas, Apsaras, Bhuta, Preta, Vishashas, Adhyas, and Pitru, Siddha, Charna, Vidyadharas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas. All these people will live in the Bhuvar Loka, and the Daityas and Danavas, the Asuras, only they live in the lower 7 planets. So this is how all these different people are living at different places. But finally, so one thing, the sages who are supposed to be living in Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka is mentioned in the 12th chapter. These are photos of different devatas and asuras who keep fighting always for the position. After describing the 4 manifestations of avidya, now the 6 manifestations of vidya are described. The 6 manifestations of vidya are karma, jnana, yoga, tapasya, vairagya, and bhakti. How they appeared through Brahma, that is also being mentioned in the 12th chapter. Then there is mentioned that the creation of 4 Kumaras. So having created all these different people with the help of the 5 layers of avidya, Lord Brahma was not happy. I have created so many living entities, but put them under bondage. He was not happy. Now he wanted to create some living entities who are beyond bondage, who are not under bondage. So he meditates in the Supreme Lord. As a result of that meditation, there appears the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara. And these four Kumaras are actually, they are liberated and they have appeared to preach the four Angas of Bhakti, the four Angas of Vidya, the four aspects of Vidya, so that all the people of this world can practice this one of these and can purify their existence. The four aspects are Sankhya means Jnana Yoga, Yoga means Ashtanga Yoga, Vairagya means detachment, Tapas means performing different variety of severe austerities and tapasya, etc. And when they are created, of course, they also have bhakti along with them. Since Vidya is useless without bhakti, bhakti is also present in these four items as secondary item. Generally, these four Kumaras, they preach Sankhya Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Vairagya and Tapasya along with bhakti as a secondary element generally. But when there is opportunity, when there are some pure devotees, they can also teach pure bhakti. For example, the four Kumaras actually taught pure bhakti to Prithu Maharaj, which is mentioned in the Bhagavatam 4th canto, chapter 22 and 23, I think 22. The four Kumaras come and give him beautiful instructions on how to execute bhakti, etc. And same way, I think today morning, His Grace Keshendra Prabhu was talking about Nimbarkacharya. Nimbarkacharya is one of the prominent acharyas who have appeared recently, just like we have Ramanujacharya is a prominent acharya for Sri Sampradaya, and Madhvacharya is a prominent acharya for Brahma Sampradaya, and Nimbarkacharya is a prominent acharya for Kumara Sampradaya, and Vishnu Swami is a prominent acharya for Rudra Sampradaya. So when Nimbarkacharya was traveling various places and was performing severe austerities, Lord Shiva appeared and told him, go and associate with Kumaras, they will help you, they will teach you bhakti. Then it is said that in Mayapur, in one of the 9 islands, in one place, these at one place, Nimbarkacharya met the four Kumaras, and the four Kumaras taught Nimbarkacharya how to practice bhakti, how to serve the Supreme Lord in proper bona fide means of archana while living in this world, and how to serve him after going back to spiritual world. So that is being taught by the four Kumaras to Nimbarka Acharya. So generally they teach Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Tapasya and Vairagya. But when they see a suitable personality who can listen and understand, so the four Kumaras teach Bhakti also, pure Bhakti also. Thus we also have Kumara Sampradaya. Nimbarkacharya is the leader of that Kumara Sampradaya, and there are so many Vaishnavas practicing this particular Sampradaya and perfecting their life. So in that way, so that is part of this. Even we have this Nadwara, the worshippers of Nadwara, they chant Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama. That is part of Nimbarkacharya and Kumara Sampradaya. So thus, generally they teach Bhakti Mishra Jnana and Bhakti Mishra Yoga, but for pure devotee, they also teach Bhakti. Like four Nimbarkacharya and like Prithu Maharaj, whenever time permits, they actually teach Bhakti also. So thus, the four Angas of Vidya appeared in the form of four Kumaras. These are the four Kumaras. So once they were born, Lord Brahma requested them, so my dear sons, please go get married and beget children. But Kumara said that no, we don't want to get married, we want to remain as celibate monks. Then Brahma became very angry. So as Brahma became angry, and he understood that the intention of these four Kumaras is genuine. They don't want to be bound in this material world. They want to set a good example in this material world. So as soon as he understood, he controlled his anger. But before that, the anger came out of his forehead. When four Kumaras denied to get married and beget children, so the anger comes out in the form of a small boy. In the color, in the complexion of red and blue, is called as Neela Lohita. Neela is blue, Lohita is red. Red and blue color boy appeared from his anger. As soon as the boy appeared, uh, actually, this Lord Shiva is a manifestation of the anger of Lord Brahma. So in that way, anger is one component of avidya. Tamishra is anger. Dvesha, when people are obstructing our enjoyment, we develop enmity with them, dvesha or anger with them. So that is one aspect of avidya. So sometimes just like vidya is meant to destroy avidya, sometimes when avidya becomes very strong, our vidya is covered up, and the good logic of vidya does not work. And avidya, when a person is very angry, he does not listen to anybody, so he starts fighting, and it leads to a big problem afterwards. So it is like that. So sometimes avidya can destroy vidya, whatever vidya we have. If it is not so strong, then we are bound again by avidya. So in order to indicate that the appearance of Lord Shiva through because of the anger of Lord Brahma is mentioned here in this chapter. So as soon as this small boy appeared, he began to cry, and he asked Brahma, "Who am I? What is my name? What I am supposed to do?" Then Lord Brahma told that, "My dear boy, please stop, don't cry. Because you cried as soon as you appeared, your name will be Rudra. And you will be called in 11 names. You will have 11 names. So the 11 Rudra names. So the 11 Rudra names are also mentioned in this chapter. Verse number 12. I'll just briefly read through the numbers. Manyu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan Shiva Rutadvaja, Ugrareta, Bava, Kala or Kala Bhairava, Vamadeva, Dritavrata. These are the 11 names of Rudra. So in India, we might be having various temples wherein Lord Shiva's deity might be known with these names. So like we have Kala Bhairava deity at many places. Bava, Lord Shiva called Bava also. And Ugrareta, Rutadvaja. Shiva is known as Shiva many places. He is also called Vamadeva, and in some places called Mahinasha, Manyu, etc. So different names are there. And the 11 Rudras will have 11 wives. Their names are Dhi, Dhriti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Swada, and Diksha. So this Uma is actually Sati. She actually she appeared as the daughter of Daksha and married Lord Shiva afterwards. So that is being indicated. And
Prabhuji, excuse me, Prabhuji.
uh,
So Rudra is only one, only there are 11 names and not 11 Rudras.
no, there are 11 Rudras who will be living at 11 places in our universe. We have one Rudra in Tapaloka, we have one Rudra in Boorloka, we have one Rudra in Bhuloka, we have one Rudra in the lower planets Vitala. There are 11 Rudras. Lord Shiva stays at 11 different places. It's just like in each and every village we have Durga deity. The goddess Durga's deity is there. But in every village she will be called with a different name. In relation to various pastimes, her names are there. Same way, Lord Shiva also manifests in 11 forms simultaneously at 11 different places. So their names are mentioned here in that way.
Yeah, because in the 11th shloka, he mentions that you have your residence will be the different 11 places.
Yeah.
So that is the heart, the senses, the air of
No,
life, the sky, the
that
air. Those are the 11 places.
no. That these
So
11 places are
that's why
the residential places for the Rudra
different
principle, not for
places.
Rudra. Hare Krishna, Mataji. So these 11 places which are there in our body, they are the residential places for the Rudra principle. The Rudra principle is anger. The angry tendencies, the angry mood will be residing within our heart. The, the anger generates within our heart, and it will manifest through our senses. The eyes become red and wide open, the breathing increases, and person starts shouting, and the hands and legs will move here, and one kicks, one hits, etc. All these things will happen. And then the breathing will increase, and in addition to this, the elements which are around us also have the anger principle. The ether, there are huge
Including
sounds.
austerity, Prabhuji, including austerity.
Yes, Mataji, including austerity. The ether produces huge sounds. The air produces tornadoes, and fire produces forest fire or a house burnt by fire, something like that. And water, tsunami, and like cyclones. The earth, from earth we can make bombs, weapons with which the
Yeah.
countries can be
Earthquakes.
destroyed.
Earthquakes, yes.
Sun, moon, and austerity. Because of sun there could be like a lot of temperature in the summer, people can die out of sunstroke. Because of moon there will be intense winter. Because of low temperatures also people can die. So like that, finally, if a person performs severe austerities without any bhakti, they are very irritable, they become very angry. So that is there. So the Rudra principle or the anger principle has the residence at these 11 places. This is the function of Rudra. The function of Rudra is, the service of Rudra is destruction. The anger means destruction. When there is anger, that's all. If there is anger between wife and husband, there will be divorce. So like that. If there is anger, there will be destruction. The peace will be destroyed. So people who are together become separated. Like that. These are all principles of anger. The destruction principle is uh, supervised by Lord Shiva. That's why Lord Shiva uh, is in charge for this particular thing. So then, as Lord Brahma instructs him, please go and beget children. Then Rudra began to create many Rudras by his mystic potency. And all those Rudras, out of their cruel nature, out of their fearful in nature, they began to destroy whatever Brahma created. Even they came to destroy Brahma himself. Then Brahma, out of fear, went to Shiva and requested him, so, my dear Shiva, please, my dear Lord, don't do this kind of creation. They are actually destroying everything that I am creating, and even they have come to destroy me also. Please stop this. It is better for you and for the entire universe that you perform tapasya. By you performing tapasya, it will bring auspiciation to the entire universe. So when Shiva heard this, so he went and started in tapasya. So since then, he is continuing to perform tapasya. So that was the request. And afterwards, Lord Brahma began to create the different variety of sages. Then the 10 sages are known as 10 Manasaputras appear from various bodily limbs of Lord Brahma. So all these people appeared from Brahma's various bodily limbs. So who all appeared from where? Narada Muni appeared from the Brahma's lap. And then Daksha appeared from the thumb of Brahma. Brahma's thumb. Daksha appeared. Vashishta appeared from breathing. Bhrugu appeared from his skin. Kratu appeared from his hand. And then Pulaha appeared from Brahma's navel. Pulasya appeared from Brahma's ears. Angira appeared from Brahma's mouth. Atri appeared from the Brahma's eyes. And finally Marichi appeared from Brahma's mind. So this is being indicated here in verse number 23 and 24. So out of these 10 people, out of these 10 sons of Brahma, the Manasaputras, only Narada remained celibate, did not marry, remained as a Avadut and renounced it. Remaining 9 married. And these 9 sons of Lord Brahma, they appeared as a representative of Karma Yoga. They actually appeared in order to preach Karma Yoga, how to practice Karma Yoga through their personal example. They themselves became grosas, and by their lifestyle, they actually teaching how to execute Karma Yoga to all of us, to the people of this world. So thus, the 4 Kumaras have appeared to teach or to preach Jnana, Vairagya, Tapasya, Yoga, and these 9 Manasaputras have appeared to preach Karma Yoga. And they all become successful by the performance of bhakti, which actually gives the results of the karma, results of jnana, results of Ashtanga Yoga. And that bhakti, the very form of all results, is represented at the end and appeared in the form of Narada. So that means Narada Muni appeared to preach bhakti all over the universe. The four Kumaras appear to preach Jnana, Vairagya, Tapasya, and Yoga. And these 9 Manasaputra, the great sages, about whom we generally hear from Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam again and again. Angira, Marichi, Atri, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, and Vasishta, Daksha, they all appear to preach how to execute Karma Yoga. And finally, Narada Muni appear to preach Bhakti Yoga. So Narada Muni is not a person like who is only takes pleasure in creating conflict between different personalities, as it is shown in the Indian very so many movies and dramas and all. It is not like that. But Narada Muni had the very important task in his hands. That is to preach bhakti. The teacher of bhakti is Narada Muni, not anybody else. So thus he is traveling all over the universe, constantly spreading the glories of bhakti to whomsoever he comes and meets. That's why we see all over Bhagavatam, all the devotees have some satsang with Narada Muni. Somehow or other, they all associated with Narada Muni. Most of them are direct disciples of Narada Muni, like Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, and Pandavas also took guidance from Narada Muni. The Prachetas took guidance from Narada Muni. Like that, many cantos Narada Muni comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, Narada Muni is so special personality, and he had the special task of preaching bhakti all over. And Srila Prabhupada writes that just like Narada Muni is traveling all over and preaching, all of us, the ISKCON members, should also travel all over and preach. So like that, Prabhupada writes in the first canto of Bhagavatam, where the pastime of Narada Muni is being mentioned in the chapter 5 and 6. So in that way. So this is the special task of Narada Muni. So during the Swayambhuva Manvantara period, Marichi, Atri, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, and Vasishta, these sages became Saptarishis. So during the first Manvantara, they were the sages. And currently we are going through the 7th Manvantara period. So currently we have these 7 sages at the Saptarishis. Kashyapa, Atri, Vasishta, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, and Bharadwaja. These 7 became our Saptarishis currently. They will continue to be Saptarishis for many more yugas to come till the end of this Manvantara period. So, etc. So, this is Daksha. These are the Saptarishis. And this is Narada Muni, the eternal space traveler, who will be traveling in the space from one place to other place, spreading the glories of Bhakti. So then, having mentioned about how Vidya manifested in the form of 4 Kumaras, 9 Manasaputras who became Grihasthas, and the 10th Manasaputra Narada Muni, who remained as a renunciant and preaching bhakti all over the universe. Like that, the 6 Angas of Vidya, how they manifested, is being narrated in the first half of the 12th chapter. And then, having mentioned those things, the Bhagavatam continues that. So there is a manifestation of so many other people, that religion or dharma appeared from the right side of Brahma. So from Brahma's chest, where Paramatma is situated, from there appears dharma, and from Brahma's back there appears adharma. From Brahma's mouth appears Vak, and from Brahma's shadow there appears Kardama Muni. So the details about all these people are mentioned. And then it also talks about those things which actually instigate dharma and those things which instigate adharma. They also manifested from Lord Brahma. The factors instigate adharma is lust. The lustful propensities makes us perform adharmic activities. Anger also makes us perform adharmic activities. Greed also makes us perform adharmic activities. And death, out of fear of death, saying that okay, मरने के बाद क्या होगा किसको पता. So life is meant for enjoyment. We only have one life. Let us enjoy as much as possible. Saying like many people perform adharmic activities. But the only way that we can come out of these adharmic tendencies and follow in the footsteps of dharma, by taking shelter of the fine speech of great personalities, the devotees of the Supreme Lord. When we hear the words or the instructions from their mouth, They're wonderful mouths. Our heart can transform and we can go on the right path and attain perfection. So speech instigates dharma, lust, anger, greed, and death instigates adharma. So that is being mentioned. And then afterwards it is said that from Brahma's four mouths there appeared various things. The Vedas, the four Vedas, Upavedas, the fifth Veda known as Puranas or Itihasas, and fire sacrifices, and the activities of the four priests, Hota, Udgata, Advayu, Brahma, etc. And the four legs of Dharma, Satya, Saucham, Satyam, Saucham, Daya, and Thapa, they also appeared from four mouths. The four Varnas and four Ashramas and their occupations, the logic, various occupations, law, enforcement, arts, and sciences, the Vedic hymns, Vedic meters, alphabets, and sounds, they all appeared from Brahma's four mouths because till now all the variety of living entities have been created. But all these living entities to live in a sane condition, to live in a proper conditions, we need a guiding principle. The guiding principle is Vedas. So everything related to Vedas are mentioned here in couple of verses. But there, Vidura asked a question. So, my dear Lord, why don't you speak elaborately all these things? Why are you speaking summarily? Please tell me from which mouth of Brahma which thing appeared? Just like four Vedas appeared from four mouths. From which mouth which Veda appeared? Like that, he asked a question. So, in order to satisfy the inquisitiveness of Vidura, Lord Maitreya Rishi talks about which appeared from where, etc. etc. All those things are mentioned from verse number 37 onwards. So they are there in the beautiful table here. From Lord Brahma's four mouths, which are there, one mouth in the eastern direction, one mouth in the southern direction, one in the western direction, one in the northern direction, in a clockwise direction, east, south, west, and north. So in his meditation, first he produced Vedas, the four Vedas, to guide Brahma about the process of creation. So basically, the Rigveda is produced from eastern mouth, Samaveda is produced from the southern mouth, Yajurveda is produced from western mouth, and Atharva Veda is produced from northern mouth. And these four Vedas have the instructions for the Hota priest, Udgata priest, Advaryu priest, and Brahma priest. So, what is that the activity they perform? So, the Hota priest, he is the expert of okay, he is the expert of Rigveda. The Hota priest is the expert of Rigveda, and chanting the Rigveda mantras, he actually offers oblations in the fire sacrifice. He is that person who said that idam Indraya Swaha, idam Namma, idam Chandraya Swaha, idam Namma, like that. He keeps offering ghee or the different variety of ingredients in the fire sacrifice. That person is called Hota, and he recites mantras from Rigveda. And the Advaryu, he actually reads verses from Yajur Veda, and he is the performer of Yajna. He actually sits behind and chants all the mantras from Yajur Veda. So that is being mentioned. And then the Udgata is this person, Hota Udgata. He is the reciter of the Samaveda. So what he will do? He actually makes arrangements for the Yajna, and he sings from Samaveda and looks after the performance of Yajna. And finally, the Brahma, he is the follower of Atharva Veda. He chants mantras from Atharva Veda and takes care of correcting the mistakes that are performed in the Yajna. When Yajna is performed, if there are any mistakes, at the end he actually corrects all the mistakes. That is the activity of Brahma. He corrects all the mistakes by following the Atharva Veda. So like that, Hota chants Rigveda mantras and offers oblations, and Udgata chants Samaveda mantras, arranges all the necessary things that are required for the Yajna and oversees the performance. Advaryu chants the mantras from Yajurveda sits behind. The whole Yajna mantras are chanted by Advaryu. And finally, the Brahma chanting the other Veda mantras. If there are any mistakes in the Yajna, he will correct all those things. So thus, for the performance of any Yajna, we need 4 kinds of priests. Sometimes only one person will do all these 4 things. So because of non-availability of variety of priests, etc., etc. So that is being indicated. These 4 things appeared from the 4 mouths of Brahma. So basically the 4 Vedas and the 4 important actions of the performance of any fire sacrifice. Then there appeared another variety of the rules and regulations of performance of fire sacrifice. That is known as Karma Tantram. Various types of fire sacrifices and the different variety of procedures, they all appeared from the 4 mouths of Lord Brahma. And this is known as Kalpa. Kalpa means the rules and regulations for the performance of fire sacrifice. Then from Brahma's 4 mouths, there appeared 4 Upavedas. From eastern mouth, there appeared Ayurveda. From southern mouth, there appeared Dhanurveda. From western mouth, there appeared Gandharva Veda. And from the northern mouth, there appeared Tapatya. So, generally, the 4 Vedas teach us how to perform Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda, they are taught in the 4 Vedas. But in these 4 Vedangas, they will teach us other things required for us to live in this world in a normal, sane condition, and also other things required for our maintenance. So, for example, Ayurveda, it is required to keep our health in a good condition, and Dhanurveda for protecting our country. The Kshatriyas learn Dhanurveda, they learn weaponry and archery, etc. from Dhanurveda. And Gandharva Veda is all about arts. So Chitralekanam, singing, dancing, Kuchipudi, Bharatanatyam, and Kathakali, Kathak, all these are all part of Gandharva Veda. Singing also, and composing mantra, composing stories, composing poems, composing slokas, they are all part of Gandharva Veda. And finally, Stapatya. Stapatya is about construction of buildings, construction of roads, carvings, and all other things. They are part of Stapatya. So sometimes they are also called as Ayur Dharma Ganartha. Ayur is Ayurveda, Dhanur is Dhanurveda, Gana is Gandharva Veda, and Artha is Stapatya. Artha in one sense is indirectly indicating that it is meant for economic development. So in order to show our opulences in a particular country, the opulences are shown in the form of big buildings, big roads, big gardens, big water ponds, etc. etc. They are all part of Stapatya. These are all our occasional duties. They are taught by the 4 Upavedas. And then finally, from the 4 mouths, there also appeared, these 4 Upavedas are nothing but the actions performed in terms of the supplementary Vedas, occasional courses they are. And from the 4 mouths, there appeared the 5th Veda, consisting of all the variety of Puranas and Itihasas such as Ramayana, Mahabharata. They all appeared from the 4 mouths of Lord Brahma. And they teach us the meaning of the 4 Vedas. So, in that way. So, the 4 Vedas only read by the Brahmanas, the most qualified Brahmanas. But the Puranas and Itihasas, everyone can read. So, the meaning of the Vedas is presented through some case studies, through the form of stories in the Puranas and Itihasas. So, these are all mentioned in the 12th chapter. And there is a manifestation of Varnashrama. The 4 Varnas, 4 Ashramas, their vrittis from Brahma's 4 mouths. The 4 parts of legs of Dharma, the 4 legs of Dharma also appeared from the 4 mouths of Dharma. Satya, Saucha, Tapa, and Daya. They are the 4 legs of Dharma. But here in this chapter, they are mentioned as knowledge, charity, penance, and truth. Knowledge is nothing but purity. When a person is knowledgeable, he actually keeps oneself pure. And when a person is charitable, he shows compassion upon all the variety of living entities. And penance and truth, they are same. So like that, these 4 things also appeared from the 4 mouths: eastern mouth, southern mouth, northern mouth, and western mouth and northern mouth, etc. etc. And from the same 4 mouths, there appeared 4 types of brahmacharya. There are 4 type categories of brahmacharis: Savitra, Prajapatya, Brahmana, and Bruhat. Savitra means one who follows brahmacharya for one day or one night. He takes that brahmachari vows and follows for one night or just 24 hours. That is called Savitra. And Prajapatya remains as a brahmachari for 1 year. He remains brahmachari for 1 year. He fasts brahmachari vows for 1 year. Brahmana is that person who follows brahmacharya till the time of Gurukula studies ends. When the Gurukula studies are completed, comes home and gets married. But one who stays in Gurukula and continues brahmacharya for the entire life, they are called Bruhat. Bruhat means lifelong celibate. That is called Bruhat Vrata. That's how it is. The 4 kinds of brahmacharis: 1 day, 1 year, till marriage, and whole life. And then there also appeared the 4 kinds of householders. So Varta means those people who live their life, who lead their life performing agriculture, taking care of cows, etc., etc. The honorable means of leading life. And Sanchaya means they lead their life by performing sacrifices. The Brahmanas, they lead their life by performing sacrifices for various sponsors, and they get donation, and then with that they live their life. And Shalina, these are another category of Brahmana grosas. They actually accept donations without begging. Just because they are Brahmanas, many people give them charities. They accept charities without begging anybody, and with that they live happily. And Siloncha, they are actually another higher category of Brahmanas. They don't even accept charities from others. Instead, they take food grains that are fallen from the plants on the land, and they take fruits and flowers that are fallen from a tree. They don't cause harm for any tree or plant, and they don't cause burden to any donor. They just accept whatever is naturally available from the nature when it is fell down from the plants and trees. So that category of grosas, there are some people also live like this, etc. And there are 4 divisions of Vanaprastha. We have Vaikanasa, Valakilya, Audumbara, and Fenana. Vaikanasa means, so even today also there are some Brahmanas who are called as Vaikanasas, etc., etc. So Vaikanasa are that kind of Brahmanas. They live on wild gains. These Vanaprasthas are supposed to live in the forest, and they live on wild grains. Whatever grains are available in the forest, with them only they live. And Valakilyas, they collect wild grains from the forest, they keep them. But when they get new grains, whatever old stock is there, they give it in charity. They don't keep any charity. Whatever they get, they keep eating. Extra, they distribute, etc. Audumbara is those kind of Vanaprasthas who live whatever they get in that direction. As soon as they get up, they look into one direction, and that day they will go in that direction only, and whatever they get in that direction, with that only they sustain their life. So this is another kind of austerities are followed by this Audumbara type of Vanaprasthas. So finally, the 4th category of Vanaprastha is Fenana. So what they will do, they accept those grains or those fruits in the forest fallen from the plants and trees. So in the forest, the fruit bearing trees or grain plants are very rare, and waiting them to waiting till the time the fruits fall down from the trees, it's like very rare. They may get food only once in 2-3 days, or once in a week, like that. They undergo through so many austerities. So that is the kind of austerity these people will go through. And finally, there are 4 kinds of sannyasis. So Kutichaka, Kutichaka, they are just after taking sannyas, they stay in their same village, out of their home, but they live in a kuti. The food is provided from their home. The home people give food. But after few days, he gives up that kuti and goes out of the village and lives on outside the village, and some merciful people may come to him and offer some charity. So like that, they accept charity without begging and live there. And Hamsa are those people, they don't stay at one place, they keep traveling. Hamsa is fixed in knowledge, and they don't beg. They share knowledge, and people give some donations, and they accept. And finally, Nishkriya is a person who already attained complete realization, is kind of liberated. He has nothing to perform in this material world. He no need to travel, no need to do any activity, etc. etc. He is there simply to set an example in this world. So like this, there are four kind of sannyasis: Kutichaka, Bahoda, Amsa, and Nishkriya. So like this, all these different things and different people also appeared from Lord Brahma's four mouths. And the four orders of life, that is with classifications of caste according to vocation to learn the above four principles also appeared. The Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are also appeared from Brahma's four bodily limbs. From the head appear Brahmanas, from the arms appeared Kshatriyas, from the thighs appeared Vaishyas, from the legs appeared Shudras. And then from Brahma's four mouths there appeared Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma means the principles educate us in Vedic knowledge. Artha is that principle will keep us abide by the rules and regulations, law enforcement. And Kama, that enables us to perform our occupational duties and live happily. And Moksha, that enables us to lead our life in a logical way. Like as a brahmachari, go to Gurukul; as a grihastha, stay home and take care of the home; as a vanaprastha, go to forest and perform austerities; as a sannyasi, gain knowledge and attain moksha. So like that, the logical way of living life is indicated by Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. They all appeared from Brahma's four mouths. And then the celebrated hymns, Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, they also appeared from Brahma's four mouths. And Om also appeared from Brahma's Pranava, appeared from Brahma's heart. And then Brahma's various bodily limbs, there appeared variety ways of composing poetry. From the skin appeared Gayatri, from the body hairs appeared Ushnik, from the veins appeared Anushtup, from prana appeared Brihati, from bone marrow appeared Pankti, from muscles appeared Trishtup, from bones appeared Jagati. So basically the shlokas, when they are composed, some shlokas are smaller, some shlokas are middle, some shlokas are longer. When we divide the shlokas into different letters, some shlokas in each line they will have 24 letters, some have 28 letters, some have 32 letters, 36 letters, 40 letters, 44 letters, and 48 letters. For example, the very first verse of Bhagavatam, Janma Dasya Yato Anvayat, it is a lengthy line. So there must be like 44 or 48 letters in that one line. Some shlokas of Bhagavatam are very small, wherein the 24 letters are only there. So like that, these are different variety of composing verses, composing shlokas. They also appeared from Brahma's various body limbs: skin, body, hairs, veins, prana, bone marrow, muscles, and bones, etc. And then from Brahma's body appeared swaras, that is vowels: a, I, u, ru, la, la, e, o, au. They all appeared from Brahma's body. And sparshas, that means consonants, they appeared from Brahma's life. There are 5 classes of consonants are there. They are called nasals. For example, gutturals, kakka, gagga, na. They are called as kantya, glottis, kakka, gagga, na. The sound comes from our throat. That's why they are called gutturals. And palatals, chacha, jajja, na, or it is called talavya. Our tongue touches soft portion of the palate, upper portion of the palate, the tongue is touching that. Talavya, chacha, jajjana, very mildly touches. And cerebrals, thatha, dadana, thatha, dadana. Our tongue actually touches the upper portion in a bend way. This is called murdana. The tongue goes upwards and bends backward. Thatha, dadana, thatha, dadana. So in that way. So hard palate are retroflex. The tongue becomes retroflex. And then dentals, tatta, dadda, na. Dantya, the tongue touches the teeth while pronouncing these letters. Tatta, dadda, na. Our tongue actually touches the teeth. And then labials, papa, baba, ma. Ostrea, matlab that upper lip and lower lip actually touches with each other, papa, baba, ma, and air comes out. So these are all called consonants. And from Brahma's strength, there appeared Antastha, Yara, Lava. So for Yara, Lava, we don't do any of these things. The words are spoken by keeping the tongue in the middle. The tongue vibrates in the middle only. Yara, Lava. It neither touches above, below, or the teeth, etc. That's why it called Antastha. And then there is something called Ushmana, where our nostril is used. Shesha Saha. Shesha Saha. Shesha Saha. So in that way, they are called Ushmanas. And there is something called aspirants. Ha, ha, aha. Aha is Visarga, aham. They are called Anuswara. They also appeared from Brahma senses. And sibilants, Shesha Sa. Sha, where mm, mm, this is called Malavya and Murdanya and Dantya. Sa, tongue touches the teeth, and Sa, Sha, the tongue goes upward like that, Shesha Sa, etc. And then Saptaswaras appeared from the Brahma's playing. Sarigama Padani, they also appeared from Brahma's playing. So like this, all these things, the various things have manifested from Lord Brahma. All the different personalities who appear to preach, all the different personalities appear to perform various activities, all the things that are necessary for our living in this world happily, they all appeared very nicely. But in spite of all these things, the creation was not going faster way. Then finally, as Brahma was contemplating like this, two people appeared from Brahma's body, one male and one female. They are known as Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa. So that Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa eventually married and they begot so many children. From there on, from the time of Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa, the marriage between couples started. And by the couples, the living entities being produced. Eventually, at that point of time, Lord Brahma also married Saraswati. Of course, he did not beget any children. And her name, Satarupa had 9 daughters. Sorry, 3 daughters. Akuti, Devahuti, Prasuti. Devahuti married Kardama Muni. And through Kardama Muni, Devahuti begot 9 daughters. And those 9 daughters married the 9 sons of Brahma. The 9 Manasaputras, Atri, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kartu, Brugu. They married the 9 granddaughters of Satarupa. And through them, these Brahmanas, these Prajapatis, have produced many, many children. And in their lineage only, all of us are coming. That's why most of us will have our Gotra with one of these names. Some of us will have Gotra known as Brugu, Vashishta, Pulaha, Kratu, etc. And our family Gotra is Kashyapa. So our beginning is from them, from Satarupa. Satarupa's daughters, Devahuti, Akuti, Devahuti, Prasuti, and Devahuti's daughters. She has 9 daughters, and through them, all of us are being born later on. That's why they are called Prajapatis, and on their name, our Gotra is being indicated. So this is, I thought, kind of going through a brief overview of the entire 12th chapter and the previous 10th chapter also. I hope I did not confuse all of you. Last week we went through a little faster. So it's already 9 o'clock. So we'll stop here. Maybe a couple of minutes quickly we'll take 1 or 2 questions if devotees have something and devotees want to share something, whether if this understanding makes clear. See, one thing is, we hear from our school texts so many things that slowly one by one human being only invented everything, human being only invented all the letters, human being only started this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, these are recent manufacturing, etc., etc. We hear many times. We also hear many times that the Vedas also written recently, some couple of thousand years back, or the Puranas are also written recently. Like that, so many people say so many things. But the origin of all these things is there from the Brahma. Everything is there from the beginning of Brahma's day. So that this gives a complete wholesome understanding of what is our Sanatana Dharma, what is the Vedic culture, how accommodating, how complete the Vedic culture is in relation to the modern science, the modern scientific understanding. We hear about Stone Age, Iron Age, Silver Age, Golden Age, Platinum Age, like there are so many things we keep hearing. But here we see everything is there from the beginning of Brahma's day. So just to give a glimpse of that, I thought of discussing this once again. So, Hare Krishna. If any devotees have any query, quickly one or two will take, and then we'll break for the day.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
Prabhuji, you have told us about the Saptarishi. And that Kashyapa, Atri, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Gautam, Jamadagni, Bharadwaj. Now, but that Ursa Major, that Saptarishi, even Arundhati, wife of Vashishta, is given the place. Can you throw a little bit light on that? I know it is not part of today's this thing.
No, but Arundhati is not Saptarishi, one of the Saptarishi, but since being his wife, the wife supposed to follow the husband. Where a husband is there, wife will be there. So next to that Ursha Manor, the Big Dipper, we also see one Arundhati Nakshatra that is always there. So being a wife, she humbly follows her husband. So that is understanding. And she herself has a particular nakshatra. Under her supervision, all the activities are going on in that nakshatra.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Correct. Hare Krishna, not only questions, if you have any comments to make also, you can speak out.
I think Ganesh Prabhu has raised his hand. He wants to say
But
something.
he can speak, he can ask question if he has.
Haribol Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhu Ganesh.
Hello, Haribol Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji, fantastic class. Prabhuji, I just wanted to ask you, Prabhuji, all these 84 lakh species are created by God, right?
Yes.
Right? Prabhuji, human beings are on a certain level. There are species which are higher than human beings, and there are species which are lower than human beings, right?
Yes, yes.
And all the species are created because we wanted to independently enjoy.
We wanted to independently enjoy in a variety way. That's why there is variety of
Yeah. Okay. So, but God wanted to retrieve all of them back, right?
Yes. No, God
So, but
wanted
Prabhuji,
us. God wanted all of us to come back.
yes. So, but why He's so merciful only in human beings when there are species who are higher than human beings? Okay, I can understand about the lower species, but there are species which are higher than human beings also. So, why God is only behind human beings, giving them this knowledge? Are this knowledge also given to lower species or higher species, or it is only for human beings?
See, whatever knowledge we have with us at our disposal, that is for human beings. And Devatas will have higher knowledge. It is not that Lord is not after Devatas. Devatas also performing their sadhana, they will also go back to Godhead after their tenure is over. Not like that. But whatever we read, it will be for us. For example, if you are reading, not reading, when you go, as a student, if you are going to college, if you are doing engineering, what you will be taught? You will be taught engineering only, na? You will not be taught medicine.
Yes.
So as a human being, what is necessary for us, that is being taught to us. And it is said that it is very important, it is very important, it is said. And for Devatas, their subject is being taught to them, and it is said to them that it is very important.
Okay.
So it is like that.
But every now and then it is always said that humans are so fortunate, when we have species who are higher than us. So why only humans are so emphasized? Always humans are emphasized.
Why? Because in the entire universe, Bharatavarsha is so special. Even by doing little bhakti, little sadhana, one can gain immense benefits. Thus, one can go back, home back to Godhead very quickly. This is a special place. Even for example, when Lord Brahma, I'll tell you one simple couple of examples. Lord Brahma wanted to have darshan of Lord Narayana. Then he took advice of great sages. They suggested that you go to Kanchipuram. If you perform one sacrifice there, it becomes equal to performance of 1,000 sacrifices in Satyaloka. So Lord Brahma came down to Kanchipuram, performed tapasya, and he had darshan of Varadaraj.
Okay.
And even Mother Lakshmi, when Bhrugumuni entered into Vaikuntha and kicked on the chest of Lord Vishnu, Mother Lakshmi felt very much offended that I did not do anything to stop Bhrugumuni from kicking on my Lord's chest. So I have committed big offense. And she immediately came down to Kolhapur in order to atone for her offense. She would have gone to any other place. Why she came down to Kolhapur? Because it is so pious
Okay.
place, if she performs little austerity here, that is equal to thousands of times performing it anywhere else.
Okay.
So Bharatavarsha is
Okay.
so special. So here, somehow or other, we have got human body, human species, human form of life. So if we utilize it properly,
Okay.
we can directly go back to Godhead. Otherwise, if somebody by mistake becomes a Devata, they have to live for
Okay.
one Manvantara time period. That is equal to 71 Chaturyugas. 71 times
Okay.
4.3 million years. Whether you want to continue that many lifetime, that much
Okay.
lifetime.
No, definitely not.
In the human species, only just in two, 3
And
lifetimes,
Prabhu,
one can go back to Godhead.
okay. And Prabhuji, when we talk about Bhuloka, it refers only to Earth. And when we say Bharat Varsha, that means only Earth and India, or I mean to say.
No, it is very big. We will discuss about it when we come to 5th canto. It is very big. The whole Bhumandala is Bhuloka. In that, Bharatavarsha is only small portion, a tiny portion, like a pin of the needle.
Okay.
It is very big.
Okay. So when you say Bharat Varsha, it also means Earth planet?
The entire Earth planet is 1/9
Or
of
Earth planet
Bharatavarsha.
is.
The entire Earth globe is
Okay.
1/9 of
Okay. Okay,
Bharatavarsha.
Prabhuji. Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah, Haribol, Prabhuji.
Hare. Hare Krishna. Any other devotees want to share something or ask something? Otherwise, we can stop here. Hare Krishna. Abhay Chaitanya Prabhu, you have any announcements to make or any other things?
No, Prabhuji, there are no announcements.
No.
Thank you very much for amazing lecture, Prabhuji. Amazing class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna
you.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.